Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. The topic of today is I lost my soul. I lost my spirit a long time ago, but I regained it. I regained it and more, actually way more, infinite, through God, through being born again. There is such a difference between not being born again and being born again, because things change. I don't like making long videos. I don't, because I have a speech disorder and it can become pretty tough, but I'll do my best. My back feels better. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and this is the first time, and it's been like this for, I think this is the third day. I feel it getting better. All areas of my back. I don't want to make this too long. I just want to drive my point, but I'll try to explain what happened to me in a nutshell. Should probably take around 10 minutes anyways. And I didn't have a good life, okay? Sure, I was presented with good things in my life but it wouldn't have worked anyways, because I didn't know things about myself. Autism, no small thing. I got into drugs, alcohol. Then it led to me taking an antidepressant when I was, which isn't uncommon for people with autism, traumatic disorders, that type of stuff. And this antidepressant just it triggered a full body intractable pain syndrome equal to CRPS pain. And it was because I developed something called the serotonin syndrome. But I'm gonna go further back in my life, and if there's something I've learned, being born again, I don't feel shameful. I've been forgiven of these things, so anything I say is forgiven, and I don't care if another person judges me. And the whole point of this is to help somebody anyways. You may be in that position. You may be wondering, what do? I don't feel the same. I'm depressed. I'm like I'm really sick physically and mentally. Or I just may have challenges. What do? I don't feel like I did when I was a kid. That spirit inside of me is now gone. What happened? I can't even remember when it happened. I'm just like I do. I'm just putting myself into your shoes if you're in that place. And what do I do now? Guys, I had a just like total spasm. Just still it's my life. I had a good spirit when I was young. In my younger years, like under 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, something happened, a violent episode that did change me, but it was more I felt the change inside of school, and it was developing. I had a lot of trouble inside school, but because I couldn't focus, I was having a lot of trouble. I didn't know I had autism and probably ADHD, or at least attention deficit, bipolar disorder, and those things were building. And anyway, so I didn't understand these things. They're very big things to deal with. And so, my outlet was with my friends after school and all that type of stuff. And despite what happened to me at 14, at 15 years old, I remember it was still what I remember to be the best time of my life. Because God bless, and I hope I see my friend in heaven. My friend died when I was 18, he's 19. We were best friends then, I would say around 14, 15. And I just remember us walking around, around the city and chasing after girls, right? And then women, whatever. And I just remember it being the most free time of my life. And you're stupid when you're young. Well, I was. A lot of kids are stupid. I was going to a lot of parties. I was going to big parties when I was 14, 15 and on. And like hundreds of them. Drugs, alcohol, all that type of stuff. I never got into that injecting stuff. I never got into that. But, if it was there, we'd pretty much do it. If it was in front of our faces. But we mostly smoked marijuana. And for me, as you probably know, I drank on the weekends to alleviate building social anxiety, building, obviously autism, traumatic events. Excuse me. Started watching my friends get ahead of me, and that really troubled me. It really did. Did I believe in God? All my life. I was an altar boy when I was like 8 or 9. I remember hating doing it. I was this young autistic kid. I remember going up to the front and having to say because there was another guy beside me, when they ring the bell? I could never remember when to ring the bell, and I always had to get the kid beside me. I'd be like, be so nervous. I didn't like doing it. But people tell me that they remember I had a spirit in me. And when I got in trouble, I remember I got in trouble with the law and stuff. When I was 13, 15, and 15 or 16, 3 times, I was, forced to do a psych, because that's anyone who does something significant enough and they're young, they have to get a psych review. And that ended up with, it was right at the time when antidepressants were coming out. And I don't mean tricyclics, I mean the new and the very first one, which, what a time to be in. Like right at that time, Prozac. Made me sick, didn't make me feel anything. It drowned my emotions. I was on and off of these things for quite some time anyways. And I went through all that list. I went through them, Effexor, Paxil, all these things. All they did, likely because I have autism, was just agitate me. That's what they did. I read the report. I don't want to get taken down for saying this. I read the reports. I know all the efficacy rates for them, and they're not good. But they were agitating me, and they were taking my spirit away. Weren't good with drinking either, believe me. It'd take me 5 days just to recover. Then I would have maybe 2 days of feeling good. That's how long my hangover would last. To tell you the truth, I never really had anyone to tell me what was wrong with me. They didn't know I had autism. So what was I supposed to do? I mean, when I look at that, I'm not trying to blame somebody, but that's a very significant thing not to know. Because maybe I would have learned some things that might have helped me, but maybe not as well. I mean, it's just one thing that I can say for sure went wrong. And I do look back at the signs, and they were all there. So, the people who were, like at schools and stuff like that they knew something was wrong, but just what was wrong anyways. Finally, when I was in my 20s, 23, I took an old antidepressant called phenelzine, and it was supposed to have a very high efficacy rate. I studied it, I looked at it. It was like pretty much the beginning of the internet as far as it was getting good. Like for searches and that type of stuff. Anyways, I took it. I had the serotonin syndrome, and I had many horrific things happen over 13 months, overlaid with other medications that made the entire picture very murky. Nobody knew what was going on. Plus, just indirectly, I went from convulsions and seizures, because that's one of the things in the serotonin syndrome. I had so many of them that my neck tore, and I ended up spreading all over my body. Pain, face first, then into my body, and all of a sudden I'm on opiates. Right? There's nothing else to survive. Pain is so bad. Mixed that with gabapentin. I was already on gabapentin. Both a mood stabilizer, but a good neuropathic pain agent. Nobody could tell me what was wrong. After 3 years, I tried to take my life in a very serious manner. And I ended up with like 3 or 4 different branching disorders because of the way I tried to take my life. Very common, by the way, pain suicide disease. So I am trying to say that, it's not abnormal. I'm not shameful anyways. It's what I did. And I'm not going to say what it is. If you've been watching my videos, you know what happened. My life has been struggle from like pretty much day one. Some of the things are unspeakable that I had to go through. I don't feel like speaking that on here. I'm still trying to decide in my mind, like what would help someone. I don't want to throw someone off by suicide. And now because I say suicide, it'll probably, at my beginning of my video, it'll probably say, proceed with caution, I'm sure. It's okay. I was taking so much physical pain, and now I have about 3 or 4 new problems, so it's like 5 different issues now. My life was already crap. I wasn't facing up to myself. Not looking at the shames I had to face in my life from drinking alcohol and saying things and doing things. Saying things and doing things that were not me. I could tell with my friends that they knew that, if they ever saw me with alcohol, they never wanted to, they were kind of like, I knew that there was drugs and alcohol that were really stealing away the spirit inside of me. And I mean, everyone has a spirit, okay? And I did believe in God, but I didn't understand what it was to be a born-again Christian then. I didn't understand a lot of things. A lot of people were getting ahead of me, my friends ahead of me, as time was going on. They were getting houses, they were getting motorcycles, they were getting cars. And I felt completely low and left out. And I couldn't get out of the cycle of drugs and alcohol because I was trying to drown it away. Marijuana just irritated the hell out of me. The first time I took it, the first first year and a half was all right. But when I started to build some traumas in my life. I was starting to get and bipolar disorder. Takes a while to emerge. Hypomania. I don't get manic. I don't get full manic. I do have the ability to stay up for, man, I've stayed up for more than 3 days in a row. And when I was in my 20s, my late teens and 20s, I could stay up. I stayed with my friend. We stayed up for six days, no sleep at all. And it was something I liked to do because every time I got to the end of the night, I'd be, when you get to the end of the night and you're like, that's probably when your endorphins and everything is at its peak, right? People tend to feel the best, let's say they're at 10 p.m. or something, right? That I'd be like, by midnight, I'd be like, I think I can do this again. And I'm pretty sure I can. And it would go like that. And I just didn't feel the need for sleep. I never asked for pain, but paradoxically, it saved my life later on. For ways, if you watch my videos, you've already heard, and I can't explain inside of this video. Well, actually, I can. It saved me from. I know. I didn't really feel a need. It turned me down a different path. I didn't want to chase alcohol and any drugs anymore, but I was still an addict to one drug in particular, or a type. That didn't last long, though. So, trying to take my life really messed my life up big time. I ended up severely injured. It's a permanent injury on my abdomen, and it just led to one pain disorder after the next, till the life was sucked out of me. I'm not the same person, can't even express myself the same, losing interest in all things. I was lost. I don't know, guys, what else am I supposed to say? I kept trying to take my life, but God wouldn't let me die. And the more I did, the more injuries I built on my body. Ended up with such severe stuff, I can't even explain it. I remember, because of these attempts in my life, I have to be hospitalized. And it was like things were taken away from me. The feeling of losing control of your own meds. I'd be in that's 95 pounds, man. 95 pounds. In a hospital bed. I couldn't even get up and walk. I had trouble speaking, but it was way worse because I didn't have something for my throat. An anticholinergic, a strong anticholinergic for the muscle contractions of my throat. So I couldn't even speak. I chose not to speak for a period of 2 years. I would speak maybe 5 words a day. 5 words a day. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't eating, nothing. I gave up because no one could help me with my specific abdominal pain, which I had to figure out on my own. My spirit was gone. There was nothing left. I felt no hope. Nothing. I don't ever remember blaming God at all. I don't even think that really came into my mind. Because I was so consumed with so much misery. This ends well, don't worry. I actually don't like speaking from this sitting down anymore. Unless it's to a video where I can take a rest and then comment on it, but I just haven't been doing those videos because I'm busy studying. But this is important, so Everything was gone. There was no way back. No matter, even if I ate, man, I couldn't gain past a certain amount of weight. I tried in the hospital. I remember the physical therapist who came and tried to make an attempt to try to get me to walk came with like this special walker. She was from my school, like a grade under me. Like a big coincidence. And I felt, well, I don't know, I didn't feel shame, but I felt, like, why you? Anyways, it took me like 10 minutes to get down maybe a 100-foot hallway with a walker. I remember being in a hospital bed with like someone watching over me, you know, like a personal assistant. Suicide watch. And because of my spinal disorder, don't worry that this will make its way. My bladder would fill, and because of my spinal disorder, and I'd go to sit on the toilet, and they'd be right there. They'd have to keep the door open, and I couldn't pee. It was so bad. I went through the most horrible things. Like, wow, man. I just remember through the night, you know, they gave me my sleep meds, but I didn't have the thing that I needed to breathe through my sleep. What I mean breathe, not a cardiovascular problem, but that contraction would keep me awake. And it felt the same. So it's the same thing as far as breathless. Just like this nightmare convening on me on all sides. That's what it was. And then my mother died. That really hit me hard. But it was actually just before that I managed to get up on my feet. It was being in the hospital and them trying to get me up. I believe it was because of my mother's cancer that I finally got up on my feet and stayed up. And those are long stories, and after she died, like, it didn't push me. I don't know what it was. I was stuck on the bottom floor of my parents' home because it made no use to go up and lie down in bed, because during the day I just couldn't breathe the longer I lay flat on my back. And I would squirm because of the pain in my legs. At that time, I had no controlled pain. Adhesive arachnoiditis, a full body intractable syndrome of CRPS-like from back from the antidepressant. I got all these different injuries on my body. Man, you know, irritability and agitation through pain. Well, that's what my life was and still is. But I deal with it correctly, the best I can. I didn't get along with my dad. I had to move out on my own. I did. And through that, I finally had some peace, just like environmentally, being on my own. And it was through that, and I'm sure it was God. I know it was God. Because where I am right now, today, riding a motorcycle, a Kawasaki Ninja all over the streets, and I understand how to ride the bike. I'm studying for university. If you even knew where I was, that I was in this place, underdosed with medication, by a big margin. Just that one disorder, adhesive arachnoiditis, is equal to terminal cancer pain. Bone cancer, that's what it says. What does that mean? That means without opiates. Some people don't understand with pain how to live a life by exercise and eating correctly and sleeping correctly. And sometimes that's the big difference that people just don't understand. But I struggled in here, and you know what happened to me with Moderna and all that stuff, but and then with that narc, I went through very hard situations, unknowingly, indirectly tortured. I just want to say that. Twice. That's a very long story. It's in my book. I don't put my book up here because I don't believe a Christian should sell things on their thing, but if you ever want to know, I will tell you. Twice I was. Very horrifying thing. Real. I went through a lot of trial and tribulation. I don't know. You know, when I look back at it, like, what was it for? Like, I can only guess one thing. I don't talk about those episodes except in my book. They are really horrifying situations. I'll just tell you very, very quickly, but one, I won't tell the other. Because I had tried to take my life, I was in a delirium from an overdose. And they presumed that I needed a catheter. And it was a traumatic catheterization, but the worst one you've ever heard in your life. I screamed for 45 minutes while they kept trying to put stent sizes down. It's like a needle down your. For 45 minutes, blood, a lot. Sorry to be descriptive. I'm trying to tell you the kind of life I've had. I don't even know if I'm going to put this out now. I couldn't speak because I was catatonic, because it was drug-induced catatonia. It was so severe. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. You know, when you're like that, you can do certain little things. And I remember someone behind me saying, no one in their right mind would take that much pain. That was unknowing torture. I didn't do anything about it. I didn't sue them, which I could have. But it was their mistake for not recognizing that. And there are no stipulations in place for that kind of episode. I looked, not where I live. No one even considered that type of thing. But it happened. I wonder, like, what are all these things? What is all this for? Why do I keep suffering? You literally have to read my book to understand. That is just the tip of it. And I don't ever want to come off on boasting. I'm getting to a point. What was all this for? You know, man, I'm not saying I'm Jesus. Just listen to me. No man who believes in God, no man can ever say that Jesus doesn't understand, because look at what he went through physically and mentally too. In the same kind of way, I wonder. You know, so he can empathize with us. So Jesus can empathize with us. I wonder if those types of things that I went through that were so abnormal, I'm studying for an addictions counselor. There's a lot of studying. I like it. I love helping people, and I would have to believe that is for this type of thing. There's not many things that I cannot empathize with. And so living here, started building myself up. Eventually, I got on the right meds. I got my, God willing, thanks be to God, I got all my pain diagnosis except one of them, which I don't think many places in the world are willing to just give this diagnosis, which is very frustrating. It's in my abdomen. Doesn't make it not real, though. They did that to me for 45 minutes. I was so frightened. I was in a state I couldn't move. My muscles were like Gumby. I believe in the same way that Jesus could empathize with anything on this earth, any situation, that I was going through all these things. First, all these mental things when I was younger, neurodevelopmental and mental, and then a lot of physical, so I could help somebody. I don't want to make this somber, man. Like, what I've been through. And what I've learned by now is that, like, look, man, you see my back was out in 8 places, and it's getting better. I'm telling you, that is just another day for me. It seems so. Something always comes like that for me. It's unfortunate. I'm very active, though. I was born again because I gave my life up. I said enough fighting. I'm willing to accept that I have this or that. And by the way, when I tried to take my life and I was 95 pounds, I wasn't speaking, wasn't eating, wasn't drinking, 200 milliliters of water a day. A psychologist came in, interviewed me. I could barely, just to try to even speak and sit up was make me even more tired for the rest of the day. He put down many different possible things that were very, very shameful things. Like, does he have this personality disorder? Is he doing this on purpose? All these different things, which was one reason why I went to get my autism diagnosis, because I could not accept the things that this man said. And for him to think that I did it on purpose to avoid work, that was one of the possibilities. But he didn't understand something about me. He didn't understand the things that had happened to me in my life before that point. I felt real angry at that report. Not only, but that report said the prognosis was very poor. It looked like I was going to die. That was it, man. Where else was I going to go from that point? My parents didn't know what to do with me. So here I am. Start trying to get work. Start selling candles, develop a business. 70 different types of candles. Pretty cool. Develop websites. Start speaking to people. Start getting back into things. Life's starting to look up eventually, but it was a very, very tough road and a really hard physical rehabilitation. And then one day, after all the thing I went through with the narcissist in my life, like I told you, I was born again. I was already starting to read the Bible, starting to study it, starting to read, just to read it over, every morning, when I take my meds and my food, I read it for about an hour. And eventually you keep going over the Bible over and over and over. And that's started meeting up with Jehovah's Witness. He is a nice guy. And they're the ones who got me on this track, believe it or not. Still good people, but what was the secret? You know what? I didn't even know in 2017. I didn't know that I had CPTSD. I didn't know I had all these traumas. I knew I wasn't well psychologically because I wasn't willing to confront myself. Why wasn't I willing to do that all these years? But because I did that, or because God forced me to, I think he gave me a choice. I think he pre-knew already. Did you right? He pre-knew. When I started to do that, mixed with trying to seek after God, then I was born again. It just came one day. Like I said, I was walking through that tunnel. I felt differently. And that was after the narcissist. After I started realizing what people are really like, what people's agendas are, that people don't care about you. There's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people like that out there. It's hard to trust somebody. You know, you don't want to get into a relationship because of it. I realized that. So I got my spirit back. And it just kept building and building and building. My confidence just kept building. All these shames. I say shame a lot. Why do I say shame a lot? Because I went through a lot of traumas. I went through a lot of things that were embarrassing. I started to build a reputation that I knew, you know, was this guy sleeping around? Was this guy doing this and that? And eventually, you don't want that in your life. The only thing that can erase that is Jesus Christ. He can forgive you for that sin. And even if a person who I've sinned against in my life sees this and says, oh, well, you know, I don't forgive this guy, God can still wipe that away and that person will forget about it. But I don't even have the smallest shred of doubt. It was him who pulled me, even though I felt alone, that I didn't truly have someone who understood the physical things that I was going through. And you mix that also with the mental too, and autism. Man, autism. I think part of the reason I survived with so much pain is because of autism. People with autism have a huge tolerance to pain, but it can be the other way around. It can, anyways, you know, like the smallest thing might really get me, but knowing I have to deal with something big, it drives me, guys. Also drives me mad too. No, like, without accepting yourself, without accepting where you are, how are you going to build? How are you going to build? I was just reading in a book for motivational interviewing, a technique which I hope to use soon on you. What was the quote that it said from it said, how can I, something to this effect, how can I even imagine to change you when I'm not willing to change myself? How am I going to talk you into changing your life when I'm not willing to accept mine? You know, the people who give advice, they're easily give advice, but they can't take it, right? Because of God. It had nothing to do with me. Nothing. And even in that, even in this discomfort, and you know, I understand that I live alone. Like, that's another thing. Living alone, becoming proficient with your hands. I can't tell you how much stuff I do with my hands. You should see my apartment, man. I have so many different hobbies and things set up here. willing to work with your hands, right? Um, you're gonna have to remember what I was gonna say. It's not uncommon for that to happen to me. Unless you don't have physical pain like me, okay? If you have or just a nice, comfortable, regular body, which I can't wait to have again when Christ comes. I forgot again. Wow. Do things step by step. You can do more than you think you can. I believe you can. And how? And how the heck did I get my spirit back? And how did I get my spirit back to a point where I walk around with a smile? Sometimes. Didn't do that when I was a kid. You know why? Because I am a child. I'm a child of God. And I feel like a kid. And we're supposed, doesn't Jesus say that? You must be like children, like these little children. I think it says it in Matthew. You know what that means. That's the true definition of born again. It means you and I can have a conversation with God at any time. He prefers to hear everything about it. It doesn't matter what it is. He wants to hear it. He wants to know about every little thing we're doing. And we're very lucky to have that. And we're lucky to have the Spirit with us. You know, you may have a spirit, but do you have the Spirit inside of you? You got to ask yourself that question. Am I born again? Your goals don't have to be like mine. Like, guys, I drove in my life. I drove my parents' car. I drove other people's cars. I never had my own car. And for most of the time, I kept in perfect shape from walking and biking. I love mountain biking. I never made enough money to buy a car because I spent all my money on alcohol. And I was never well enough really to work for any length of time. That had to be taken out of my life for anything to be good. But thanks be to God, look where I am now. Not boasting about anything. I remember Christmases and stuff like that for a decade where, you know, I was lactose intolerant because of an injury in my abdomen, because of a surgery, and because of my other abdominal disorder. There's just a branching stuff in there, man. One thing branches off of another to another. I can't eat I would say about 80% of foods due to one abdominal disorder. And so through Christmases and holidays, my family would come over and I'd be bedbound, couch-bound, like sitting on the couch, just completely vegetating. I wouldn't be angry at my family, but I certainly felt jealous. They were all eating cookies and all this special Christmas stuff. Do you know how hard that was to go through? Man, that was hard. I was starving. I was no different than a starving child in Africa or any other country for years. That's the way I was. No matter what I did, whenever I ate, I got just way too sick. It got past a point where anyone was really able to help me because there were so many issues. When I got here, I had a big task ahead of me to solve each individual, autism, speech disorder, adhesive arachnoiditis, full body intractable pain. Found stuff in my hospital files. That stuff they didn't tell me. A lot of other stuff too. So here I am. And I have been, and I love to help other people. I could get really descriptive, but I don't want to do that on Christian channel. I don't want to do that anyways, you know? Go read my book. I don't want to make it about me anyways. Here's my conclusion, okay? If anything in this hits with you at all, and you're in a spot where you're depressed and everything like that, the only thing I'm going to tell you is I don't think you're going to ever find the spirit that's inside of me if you don't give your life to God. How do you expect to have the same thing as I do? Or other born-again Christians? Stick to the Bible. I would say, okay, if you're going to watch videos, go ahead, but they're going to probably screw you up. Read the Bible and believe what it says. Study what some of the things mean and stuff like that. But there's a lot of... That's why Jesus told us to watch out for false prophets. Guys, I feel really well even when I'm really sick. When my back is out. Do you know what that's like? To have your back sprained in 8 places? On top of this, superimposed. But still the Spirit of God gives me a smile. Only the Spirit of God could do that. God bless. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope for every one of you